Listo. Ahora, ¿dónde está José Luis? José Luis, ¿lo puedo molestar entonces? Sí, claro.
Well, we had planned to come out here to ask Obama to do an investigation on the corporations and the banks and not to sign a sweetheart deal. Last night he showed us that he was going to do an investigation and not accept any sweetheart deals. So today we're here to say thank you, President Obama, for listening to the people and for doing what's right. Well, because they are accountable. They need to be held accountable. Our whole economy clashed because of they weren't being watched carefully because of all the deals they were making, the gamblings they were making. They weren't being, just everything that they were doing is the cause of our collapse. Instead of them getting in trouble, they got $100 million bonuses. They need to be held accountable for the downfall of what's happened the last 2 or 3 years. I believe so, yes.
Were there others as well?
Well, the things with the wars, having wars, is the president coming? Having wars that aren't paid for, that didn't help. The bankers, the corporations, there's just a whole lot of things, but in my opinion, it was the bankers that bet on the housing market, and sat behind closed doors laughing about their bets that caused the initial downfall. That could have been part of it. However, whenever someone tells you, let's make a loan to somebody that might not be able to have a $200,000 loan, let's find out what they can afford and work with them. Don't bet against them. That's the thing. They knew these weren't going through, and they bet against them to make more money. So that's just wrong any way you look at it. There could be. I don't have the answers to everything. I know that because of what's happened, my house is underwater. I bought my house 30 years ago thinking I would be able to sell that when I retired. Well, 28 years ago, thinking when I retired I'd be able to sell that and have a nice little nest egg. Well, it's not happening. My house is underwater now thanks to all this. And I know that I'm angry because everything we worked for 30 years has gone down the drain. Absolutely, absolutely, and I know that there are things that a lot of us feel that he didn't do. He can't do everything. He can't do everything in 4 years. But the things that he has done, I've got a list a mile long of things that he has done, and people need to look at that every now and then again instead of whining and complaining about what he hasn't done. About not being regulated and things like that. Isn't that where we got into this mess? The banks not being regulated? I don't think, Obama said last night that there are regulations, and he's trying to get rid of the ones that don't make any sense. So let's have regulations that protect the people and get rid of the ones that are just there.
Number one, I wanted to see our President Obama, and also I just want to let him know I support him in what he's trying to do to hold on to the middle class, because I feel like I'm one of those and I'm losing the grasp of being middle class just simply because all the opportunities are drying up, and especially as you get older, they keep pushing retirement age out. So. Well, right now, definitely going after the banks that created all of the chaos in the home loans. I mean, somebody has to be responsible and accountable for that crime. Banks and mortgage brokers and anybody that could get you to sign on a dotted line with no proof of employment, no proof of any kind of down payment whatsoever. Yeah, it was collusion on all their parts. It was greed. Exactly. Like everything else, it was probably had good intentions initially, and then they says, hey, here's what we can do. We can push this paper as fast as we can. We get paid on the front end. So, and by the time they clean up the mess, we've already got our commissions. That's wrong. You know, I do believe, and especially Barney Frank, I've got some questions about Chris Dodd. He's had his fingers in some, you know, funny loans from Countrywide or preferential treatment from Countrywide. I sure didn't get it. I had to put my 20% down when I bought my home, but he got a fat cat deal, I suppose. And Barney Frank, I think he's a straight shooter. I think he was trying to work in all of our favor to try and get some regulation on these guys and to put a stop to the criminal acts that were really going on that affect every one of us. Yeah, I agree. I think he probably would have. Yeah, I think he's right. He would have, you know. I mean, let's face it, our incomes and our wages have been slipping for the last 30 years. There's a concerted effort to undermine the middle class in this country. I don't think it's, you can't blame it on rich people. They're just trying to, pursue their own dreams. But, I think it's more a concerted effort by just people that have greed in their heart and want to take advantage of other classes of people. I do, and as it turns out, it is classes, because it's not just individuals or a few people. This is millions of people. Oh, I don't think it's class warfare. It has nothing to do with class warfare. It just has to, unless you want to say middle class, then it is warfare. And I'm ready to fight for the middle class.
We'll go after the people who caused all of the banks to fail and the housing market to fail, and they feel they need to be prosecuted. Well, that's true, but then it's the bank's fault. They knew those people couldn't pay them back, and they didn't care. They were just in it to get money for themselves. So. Well, they said that was one of Bush's philosophies, that every American should own their own home, no matter. Well, I'm not sure about that.
One day we may get it all straight.
One day we may get an answer to it all, but I don't know.